I'm back. Dude, I've just been feeling that song this week. Has a very Guardians of the Galaxy opening scene kind of feel to it. Anyways, I got the coffee made, and now it's time to talk about how it all works. All right, full disclosure up front, those of you who are here to maybe watch like some cool content or whatever, this next section may be a little bit boring, especially if you don't want to go into the airlines for any reason, or if you're not interested in how the VA works in supporting rotor transition pilots or military pilots into achieving their goal of becoming airline pilots. So either fast forward or tune in to the next episode, which maybe will be interesting. I don't know, I'm kind of winging these. So the VA funding for any kind of a flight school program can generally be divided up into two different categories. Those for degree producing programs and those for non-degree producing programs. And really the only difference, obviously besides the fact that you get a degree out of one of them, you don't out of the other, is the amount of funding that the VA gives to that individual. So let's talk about the non-degree producing program first. So these are going to be like kind of like your mom and pop flight schools, and I use that term loosely, or like flying clubs. So I looked at one down in Florida, like a flying club. It's all legitimate, there's no issues there. The problem is that you only receive $13,500 annually from the VA if you opt to use that program. Now, $13,500, I mean, I guess maybe for me that's a lot of money, but in terms of how that adds up for the overall amount that you're going to spend on flight training, it's really not much. All right, I want to do some quick math with you. So if you look at the FAR, which is the Federal Aviation Regulations, section 61.159, or 160, if you're bored and want some light reading, it basically gives you a breakdown like this, and it tells you the requirements that we need. If you're coming out of the military with 750 total hours there, you're going to need 250 fixed wing hours, and it breaks down like this: 200 cross country, 100 night, 75 instrument, 50 multi, and 250 pilot and command. Kind of confusing, right? So doing some basic math. All right, so let's take away 25 of those multi-engine hours, because you're going to get those when you get to the airline. The average rental for an airplane is about $140 an hour. So that rolls you to about $28,000 just for the Cessna 172. A multi-engine is somewhere between $400 and $500 an hour to rent, and you're going to need 25 hours of those. So let's say 450 times 25. It's going to be $11,250. Then you're going to do probably somewhere around 5 or 6 check rides, and those are about $600 a pop. So, $3,000. I mean, you're going to have to pay for ground instruction. Factor that in, let's say $40 an hour, and you're probably going to go through about somewhere around 100 hours of ground instruction. $4,000. And because math was never my strong suit, 3,000 plus 4,000, $46,250. And I guarantee you, I estimated that on the low side. The only reason I bring this up is because $13,500, it's going to take you 3 years just to get through the program. So plenty of people go this route, but I think the majority of them, if you talk to them, probably own their own airplane, or they might have come into this whole situation with so many fixed wing hours. So they just need their commercial instrument and maybe their multi-engine rating. And $13,500 at the school that I went to and talked to in Florida, they said that they could probably squeak those out for me with $13,500. But the issue is going to be all the time building hours that you have to put in to get to that $250. That's where these schools might not work. All right, so now let's talk degree producing programs. All right, so degree producing programs to me just make sense, right? So the VA is funding everything. You go through, you get a stipend. Like up here, we get about $2,200 a month. To me, that makes sense. What are the negatives? Well, let's talk that first. The negative to me, the biggest negative, is that with a degree producing program, you're in college for generally about 2 to 4 years. So the problem for me with that specifically is that coming out of the military with a pretty steady job and all that, I got mouths to feed, I got a mortgage to pay and all that, so I can't be in school for an extended amount of time. And that's why I think Infinity has the secret sauce. So basically, through an agreement with Mercer County Community College, Infinity, the FAA, and the VA, they've pretty much determined that they can condense the program down into 4 7-week semesters. So what you do is, your first semester, you're going to take 2 online courses, and they consist of air transportation and aviation history. So the aviation history class super cool. Air transportation was not that great. But the whole point is you take this class, you enroll in Mercer County Community College, so you're officially a student, take the courses online, and then you come up here for the next 3 7-week semesters to do, it's kind of like the lab portion of all the classes, right? So the question I get asked frequently about the online courses is, are they difficult? Does it take up a lot of time? So I'll tell you, like, personally, I was moving, trying to find a new house, trying to find new schools for the kids. My wife is trying to find a new job right in the middle of taking these classes. And generally, if you have about 4, maybe 5 hours a week and an internet connection, you're going to be totally fine. The last 2 weeks, you got a couple projects that might keep you a little bit busy. But other than that, it's really kind of a non-event. Josh Lee is the instructor. He's a great guy. He's a airline pilot himself and an Army guy, so he's very understanding. So once you get that done, then you come up to Trenton, and that's where you start the 3 7-week programs. Within the first 7 weeks, you're gonna get your private, your commercial, and your instrument rating. And that semester is probably one of the more difficult ones in terms of, like, mentally, you're just working really, really hard. The second semester, you're gonna get your multi-engine add-on, and then that's when you do the majority of your time building, your cross-country time. It's like 6 hours a day of flying. It's pretty busy. And in the last semester, you're essentially gonna be doing more cross-country flying, more of that time building, and then you have your final check ride. So I was a little bit leery to bring this up in terms of how the semesters work, just simply because of the fact that I wouldn't expect this, what I'm about to say. But how it works, the semesters, you can't start the next semester until the start date. Just like any other college course, you can't start a semester early. So I managed to finish the first 7 weeks in 5 weeks. That's private, commercial, and instrument. Worked my tail end off, worked efficiently, had a great instructor, and the weather just happened to cooperate. So don't rely on that, but know that if there's any kind of reservation about coming up here for any extended amount of time, say if you don't live anywhere near New Jersey, you can make it work because you might get a break. The other thing that is worth mentioning is the last semester generally is not going to be the full 7 weeks. It's going to be somewhere around 3 or 4. So know that, because when the regional airlines ask you, hey, when can you come for ground school, you can kind of give them a general idea that it's not going to be 21 weeks from X day. Generally, the program's about 4.5 months. And I think that's pretty reasonable to assume if you're trying to plan when you're going to go to the regional airlines. And that's honestly something I wish I would have known. So that's it. That's kind of the general overview of how the program works. I'm sure there's like 100 things I missed and 100 things that people have questions about, but I mean, for the most part, that touches the important stuff. Lots of people have made it through Infinity. Tons have moved on to the airlines, and they did it without having to pay very much of anything. And they did it quickly. So it satisfies pretty much all the requirements to fly. Speaking of which, I've got to get ready to go fly. Talk to you next time.